So say if, in 3-4 years when we get there, if there is a big corporate industry in here that has a bigger plane that clearly shows they can't come in and land, then absolutely, let's talk about this guy. So that's just something for you to consider.
And so this one, a lot of us like this one, but what we were hoping we could do, it's move it displacing the runway 500 feet this way. And then that keeps you out, because what's happening if we start getting too close to here, Ray Road is, and a couple of those, Ray Road has to be.
So you just shift it 520 and leave it the same length.
Yeah, because you have to give this up for Davisburg, but what a lot of us like to do was, this is not the runway, but kind of maintain this as a displaced runway. Apparently the FAA doesn't like that very much, but if you have a displaced 500 feet for takeoff and landing purposes, data purposes in the airplane, you can include that 500 feet. So that would actually, that would take your 3,400 up to 39, almost 4,000, and then the smaller jets could come in and land here. You can't basically, if that's a displaced runway, you can't touch down on it. You can take off on it, you can roll out on it, but you're just not supposed to touch down on it.
Close railroad there, and there, bring it all the way out.
And buy some more properties.
But then we still got the houses to deal with too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we've got those.
Well, you gotta buy, I mean, this property's gotta shift from the port to the city.
Mhm.
Because of what-
Yeah,
Well,
then
before
that, when you get into there, then the port's gonna have to trade or
Yeah.
sell property.
We've
to
been
the
talking about
city.
it forever.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like we're, we're too attached to that piece of property.
I think we're there, even if alternative number 1. So currently the runway safety area on runway 25 is on port property, as well as most of the RPZ. So even if everything stays the way it is, we'd be looking at a land acquisition as one of the first projects to secure this RPZ and RSA. So there's not, when you this is the area that we need, but there's not a whole lot of benefit in making a little flag lot there for you. So the take would likely be that entire dash line all the way out to Ray Road, unless there is any kind of benefit. So,
Look at it, but I don't think that's a problem. It irrigates in this way.
mhm.
I think in the past, we've talked about trading for this.
Ye-
We own this.
Oh.
And trading for this. But that would be problematic in the fact that future growth.
And the problem with this piece of property right here is it's currently located within the airport boundary. So at some point in the history of the airport, the FAA put some level of federal money into this property, and it's likely in its original acquisition to formulate that airport boundary. So because of that, FAA is saying, why would we want to switch property out for a like piece that's already, outside of our airport boundary?
Would it be a lot easier if the port was managed all this?
Manage the entire airport? That's a conversation for you in the city.
Well, yeah, it's time to talk to it again. I don't know, the city council, we've made 2 serious runs at it. And
Yeah.
one was within days just before you came on the board. And
Way before my time.
yeah, before your, and it was down to the fact that the lawyers on each side were still discussing, and we had an election. And as of December, it was all go ahead as soon as the lawyers had dotted and signed. And then our first meeting in January, the city manager came in and said, new city council says no, they're keeping the airport. So
What year was that?
That was about 6 or 7 years ago,
That's-
something like.
Don Day was a huge advocate for the airport and understanding the airport was an asset to the city. So I think it was a transition of Frank Sweet to Don Day, maybe?
Yeah, Sweets was the interim and Amber was the port.
Oh, okay, so yeah,
Manager.
that was,
So that's how, that was.
That's a
when the
while.
last-
Yeah, it's
6, 7
7
years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, there were some port commissioners that said, never again. But one of them's
One of
gone.
them's Yeah, no, I mean, we've actually, talked about it a little bit, but nothing has happened, but I don't think we're opposed to it. It's just that we got a lot going on right now. We'd have to probably hire somebody else to help manage the airport. Just a growth spurt for us. Are you gonna open this or?
Well,
Yeah, well,
we're,
let's,
we're on the meeting. Shane, are you still available? Shane?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just listening.
Okay.
We need one more, Shane.
Is anybody else on the line?
There's just like 3 phone numbers.
Not that I know of.
Hiltner and Ted was in Salem. I gave him the Zoom. He said he might try to Zoom.
Well,
I gave
now
Scott the
there's
Zoom.
2 phones on, but that's it.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
so Shane's is 321 and then mine is,
The bottom one.
yep,
So Scott hasn't, I gave him all the info that.
and one of them might
321.
be Alexa, but I'm not sure. No one's responding yet. If there's anybody on
Right.
the phone and if you can hear me, please respond.
The 729 number is me, Jackie.
Oh, okay, thank you, Jackie.
Oh.
So we're short 1 person. We need 5.
Oh,
Who's the fourth?
Shane.
you have
Oh,
Counselor
okay.
Beeler. Did you already count him?
Was that Jackie?
Did you count Counselor Beeler?
Yes.
Yeah, I texted Bob Webb. He said he was gonna be here, but he's not. Ted was in Salem. He was gonna try to Zoom and Scott Stiltner was gonna try to Zoom. So that's it.
Oh,
We'll
someone,
wait till
George is
April
closed.
until-
Yeah.
Oh,
of
yeah, we
course.
can wait. We can talk a little bit too. I mean, we can't.
What was the goal of this? Pick one of those and one of those, or best and second, and best and second?
Well, and you guys do have an option of prioritizing, going back to, the runway. If this is your preferred option, then what would happen is a consultant would put this in the master plan as your guys' preferred option. It goes to the FAA for review and comment. Generally, they don't like the ideas of displaced thresholds.
Mhm.
But what we can see is FAA asking for us to choose something else, or FAA indicating that, at such time when the project should go, they'll reevaluate it. Or FAA can also say, okay, this is your guys' preferred option. It's not approved by FAA at this time. So we've seen all 3 of those options happen. Alternative number 2 is really a sure bet for FAA.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we did this one,
Mhm.
because you get the time when you start arguing with discussing with the FAA about leaving the original portion and maintaining it. I mean,
I don't think
is that
that
an
will work.
appropriate time to start discussing with them? And just-
Yes, so you want to, there's quite a few phases that go for every AIP project, mean a project funded by the Airport Improvement Program. The first phase is a planning phase and an environmental phase. So at that initiation, that planning phase, which probably would be in planning for at least 6 months, if not the better part of a year. Then, a displaced threshold, relocated threshold would be discussed at that time.
Because we can always kind of keep that option
Yep, you can.
in the city, and then when we ever did get the funding to do this, then we could start discussing about just leaving the old runway there or not.
Yeah, you certainly can have that discussion.
Now, the new runway, when they redo it, won't it be wider? than the current one, and you go to a small old runway to the wider one?
Yeah, right now
Yeah.
your runway width is 60 feet long or 60 feet wide.
Yep.
And so your new standard is 75 feet wide.
Now, is that all blacktop or is that just
Nope, that's 75 feet wide of asphalt.
okay,
FAA still says at this level of airport, gravel shoulders are still acceptable. You really have to be in like a cat 3 category to
Okay.
get paved shoulders. And so with the widened runway width, we'd also proposed a new LED lighting system throughout.
which we talked about, ours is so old, it needs to be changed.
Yeah, it needs to be done anyway.
Yes.
There's just no point in doing that right now. If we're gonna widen the runway, you might as well do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And likewise, your navigation equipment, your PAPIs need to be removed, replaced. Your threshold lighting needs to come out, and be replaced, so you'd be looking at a brand new runway network.
And then do we have to make a decision on
Mhm.
tier 2?
Yeah, and you can make a hybrid decision, so this is something that we had gotten from Century West, that it seemed, the general discussion seemed to like having some of this infill hangar area that you see here in alternative 1, and then combining that with perhaps alternate 3 and 3A. So this was a image that they had done showing, sorry, it's in black and white, but showing the 2 hangars in the middle, along with combining this with, let's see, it'd be closest
Closer to
to,
this one.
yeah, be closest to, trying to see here, so there's 2, where's the, be closest to.
This is the only single hill.
Yeah, one of these guys.
And so with measuring,
It'd be this guy right here, alternate 3.
we did decide that
2 rows.
this could still be 2 rows.
We were talking about tilling in. What about that?
I don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that
that's
conversation.
what I mean by 2 rows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was determined, they looked at the measurements again and the widths for ADG1 aircraft, so your Cessnas and your little beaches. And there's enough space there to do 2 rows of tie downs. Obviously, for anything bigger than that, your Platuses and some of your larger King Airs, they're gonna be coming into some of these bigger spots. And alternative 3, an advantage to it is that if you do have that ADG2 aircraft coming in, at least in alternative 3 as shown, it's a little bit closer to your ADG1 and your hangars. Whereas in this case, they're shoehorning in another, row of ADG1 tie down. So benefit to you there. Now, when we have a quorum and you're able to select, just know that even though this goes into your master planning document, it doesn't mean that, say if this is a 40 by 50 square, it doesn't mean your hangar has to be 40 by 50.
Right.
You have a little bit of room in there to kind of negotiate.
Because a lot of the discussion on the users of the airport out there, they didn't want the category 2 airplane, interfering in the fuel area as we had it now, so we could,
Yep.
come in, refuel and go out again. And that was kind of the consensus why they kind of like the 3 a little bit more. It moved them out because until that, they're still gonna park there.
Yeah. I've been out there a
It's
couple
not gonna
times. There's
change.
been, it was a jet, or maybe it's just a big King Air, that they like to sit right beside Bob's hangar and, it's a quick access for them in and out. So
Yeah.
you're not necessarily going to stop them except just having presence out there at the airport.
Almost every category 2 that comes in our helicopter, they're in this area right here. They don't even really go down here much. They're usually parking.
And it
That's
is
what he
nice to
wants.
keep your fuel area uncongested, to try to keep it open as much as you can.
that where the medics come in too?
Yeah, they almost always park right in here. I mean,
Okay.
they're there for about 40 minutes or something. You know, we're up, I don't know, you have to ask the chief, but I think we 70 or 80 or more a year now on those
Yeah,
medevacs, sometimes 3 a day
I see
between the
them.
airplanes and the helicopters. So, you know, it's a real bonus for the city to have this and all the
Absolutely.
activity.
I get to watch them all approaches right over my property.
Oh, fun. You should be counting them.
I kind of do. I listen to every one of them and then every once in a while you see a should not, what are you doing up here?
Yeah, we've got a real.
We've got 3 on.
Is there someone else on the phone? Oh, good.
He's in the gorge, but bad reception back in and out. But that's 3, right?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Well, one is Jackie, one is Shane,
She just jumped back on.
one is Ted.
That's just Ted can hear us.
Ted, can
Yeah.
you hear us okay?
Or-
Okay, great.
Yeah, I sure can. I'm coming up the Oregon Gorge, and so my reception is somewhat intermittent at times, but I've been tracking with the meeting, and I've only had to call back once.
Well, good.
Oh, okay, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and, real quickly here, we're gonna call the meeting to order. And so we're gonna
Okay.
have a airport committee meeting. We have a quorum, we have 5. And the whole point of this, the one point of this meeting is to try to get a consensus of the recommendation that we would like to do. And Ted, have you looked those over enough? We're lucky here because Stephanie's brought all the plans in for us and explaining it to us. But if you have any questions, Stephanie's right here to explain it to you over the phone.
Is it on the screen? Because I have a good enough reception now, I could probably pull up the screen. Either that, or if somebody can just take a picture. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you see anything on your screen right now for
Well,
the
actually,
board?
if you've got it on the board, if somebody could take a picture of it and text it to me, that'd be wonderful. Then I remember reviewing them, but I just don't remember which option to switch.
Yeah, it's because this is on my camera. Is anyone able to take photos of each board and send it to him by text message? Otherwise, I have to drop the call. Nothing like pressure, guys.
So Ted, you know
That's like
you're not-
pressure, yeah.
Ted, you're not supposed to drive and look at photos on your phone.
Well, actually, there's 2 of us in the vehicle, and I'm in the passenger side.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna switch over here to some of the runway plans. I don't know if anyone can see the screens that are up, but
Which ones we?
how about, maybe consider 2 separate votes, one for voting of the runway preference and one for the land side? How do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do questions on it, and if we're kind of familiar with it here, and get Ted familiar with it, and I'm sure Shane's familiar with it.
Mhm.
And then we can see if we have a consensus on a couple of these
Okay.
plans. And if we do have a consensus. How do you guys?
Would this one even work?
Yeah, this one for sure is basically what you have now. This one is a sure bet with the FAA. This one is a little iffy with the FAA, but doesn't mean that they wouldn't go for it. This one is very drastic.
Very drastic.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. We've got that runway. There's that red in there. This is the runway we have now. 3, yeah. And at some point down the road, like I say, FAA doesn't like this place, but they're out there. A lot of people are out.
Yes.
And, that would it costs a little bit more in maintenance, because even though it's not part of the runway, you still have to maintain it. And the downside is the FAA is not gonna give you any money to maintain it. Probably, I don't know.
And also keep in mind, the FAA motivations and interests change over time. you know,
It
so.
does.
So Ted, I think you should have those photos on their way if they're not already there. Oh, that's actually not too bad, is it?
Are they a text or an email?
It'd be a text coming from Tyler.
Okay.
That's what we have now.
Of course, when Ted comes, it goes to his phone.
Well,
Oh,
the problem we have, yeah, yeah, and on this one, we just move a little bit, and what it does, it gets us. Yeah, right now, the Highway 241 is in the incursion zone. The FAA doesn't like it, but they've never told us no.
Look like what?
recipe went to
They
disaster.
could always come down and tell us no. I mean, on the incursion at 241.
Absolutely. So FAA has never really liked, 241 and mainly anytime you have a roadway, you have to add just a certain amount of elevation to it. There's no grievance in that. Alternative number 2 shows the FAA that airport board, Sunnyside, everyone involved is trying to correct the situation, but we're not quite there, only because pushing it any further past Ray Road
Gives you an
gets us
incursion on that side.
into the houses that would have to be bought.
Then we're having incursion on both ends instead of just one.
Well, you're
On
buying
just
houses too, right?
On this one.
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily
if
not
we
let you
did
not buy
this,
these houses.
They would not let those houses stay there? No way. So you'd have to buy them out and demolish. Right?
Yeah, it'd be, they'd be within your RPZ. So if you don't go through that level of effort, what could happen, what we've seen at other airports, is actually lawsuits. Because all of a sudden you're increasing the level of noise on those homes. The FAA would put you through a noise analysis, and if you really were creating an additional issue,
It would only be the homes in the green.
There's
Yeah.
2 of them.
I mean, there's, all these are.
Yep.
these are all gonna be noise.
yep, these guys would be fine. It's just a newer impact for these guys here.
And, and that one was just built last year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's about.
Well, I guess there's no restriction to that.
No, there wasn't, Well, and I asked, what's his name, and that one, when he put that, built that one, I said, why'd you build on the end of the runway? Oh, didn't bother me.
It wouldn't be.
Yeah, but,
Ted, have you received any of those photos by chance?
Yes, I have, and thank you for sending them. They came in very well.
Good. Glad to hear that. If you have any questions on them, let us know and we'll address them to the best of our ability.
The only thing I wanted to note was somebody brought up last meeting of putting the helitack pad or helicopter pad just on the east side of the well to keep it away from the other aircraft. Has that been? I guess the discussion was that if the ambulance would come in and turn on the south side of the well and access for the emergency services, that way they'd be a lot closer going that direction versus what they're doing now.
It's showing the helipad on the east side of the well. Hang on just 1 second, Ted. We're going to send you another photo. This was a sketch that we received from Century West that does have a helipad in the northeast corner of the well property. So basically what they did was took the landside alternative 3, between 2 and 3, that first hangar, a smaller hangar that's on the east side of the well, they eliminated that and turned it into a heliport parking spot. So the either landside alternative 2 or actually any of them, 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 3A could all be recommended with that modification.
Okay, good, good. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, not a problem.
If we start with the runway, does everybody kind of have an idea of what's runway airport plan they prefer? You know, if we all have a
Well,
different.
really, the only one that's gonna work is this one, right?
This one would be the most preferred to FAA. Alternative number 3, though, you can state that this is your preference. Push this through in your master plan as your preferred option with FAA. And then note that, you know, maybe alternate 3 and then alternate number 2 as a second.
But if we pick this one, we have to buy those. Why wouldn't you just go all the way?
Well, this one is a little bit more impactful with the closure of Ray Road.
Oh, that has to
Oh,
close,
yeah. Oh,
because it's too close to the end of the taxi or the runway.
Yeah, so essentially with this one, what you end up doing is with alternative number 1, you have the same issue with the highway and you're just displacing it in alternate 4 with Ray Road.
Okay,
You're solving one problem and creating another.
Well, I like this idea, but I don't think it'll work, right? It'd be a lot harder.
It would be much more difficult.
the
You got
smoothest,
Valley Road
easiest.
closure, but you got flat house.
It doesn't necessarily mean that again, master plans are usually about 10 years. So it doesn't mean that the next iteration, or if you have a major contributor that warrants a new master plan, doesn't mean that this can't be on the table at that point. I mean, in this guy, you're gonna be looking at all that property. I guess there's 2 homes there.
Yeah.
Okay, plus the road closure.
So number 2 is the most cost-effective, easiest way to get at least some of the over the freeway or highway off.
It certainly helps the situation.
So you said this isn't us now, because we don't have, this is 60 foot.
Oh, right, yeah, the only thing that's
Okay.
different with this one
The
is your
light.
width.
That's the only thing that would do different is fixed
Mhm.
right now. Okay, so this is, it's either this one or this one at this time.
Yes.
Yeah, right, correct. There's a little bit of difference within your RPZs, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same as what you have now.
This seems like kind of a baby step that probably would have to be done again, you know, so I mean, we might as well just do this. I mean, that's what I'm thinking right now.
This one's my preference with that as an alternative. 2 is an alternative.
So Chad, what we've talked about is alternative 3 seems to be, I mean, seems to be the most bang for the buck and probably can get it done and not horribly intrusive. I don't know. But the alternative 2 seems to be a little too minor and would probably end up having to do something else later.
Is
And it might also mean that alternative 3, you may, and to get there, you may have to do 2 phases of alternative 3. You know, it's nothing to say that you can't do, you know, the land acquisition generally through FAA is a year process anyway, just to get through that, even for a simple parcel. With these guys being occupied, we have to go through something called the Uniform Relocation Act. So it's another layer of complicated, but maybe in the interim, as a phase, what might make sense is to get your runway widened, get that lighting system replaced. Get the new lighting system in there, then acquire property from the port and continue to work on funding to acquire more property, which would allow, you know, this additional extension to happen. So just a thought.
which one does Shane like?
Shane, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Well, I like 2 and 3, but I like 2 because it's, you know, like Steph's been saying, I mean, we can always amend this thing. If we decide, you know, if a larger, you know, ADG comes in, we have to facilitate a longer runway, we can always amend this document and if they will work with us on that. So, I'm leaning more towards 2 though.
Well, 2 and 3, they're all the same length runway.
Yeah. Yeah, everything just starts to slide a little bit more to the east.
Yeah, the only one that gives us more runway space is
That
this one that closes Ray Road.
And buys houses.
Yeah. And I, you know, unless you guys have a good rapport with the county, closing the road with.
Well, we do, but I'm not sure if that is.
Well, also know that RSAs and RPZs like to be within city limits. So you'd likely be looking at annexation, annex the property into the city. Which it kind of depends on the homeowners in question, whether they want to come into the city. So that would be another little bit of a hurdle to
You could
go
also
through.
buy the land and bring it in. the city.
Yep, that too.
Is your land here in the city limits or no? Does the city limits end right?
Yeah, they do. They end right at
Right.
this line right here.
Yeah.
So
Well, even number 2 is a good jump for this airport.
It seems like the safest bet at this point.
Yes.
You know, it still gets our lighting, right, Stephanie?
it does.
Wider runway.
Yep, lighting. And all your land acquisitions.
And then all we're dealing with port city.
And generally what we would propose is on the, whether it's alternative 2 or alternative 3, would be an actual land acquisition on the 2-5 end. And then because we have the highway and SVID, neither one of them will obviously give up their roadway or their canal. So extending off on the runway 7 end, we would need to do a navigation easement instead of an actual acquisition. It generally still has all the same restrictions as a land purchase. This is a little bit easier, and obviously the port owns this property.
So where's Ted at on this? Ted, what's your opinion on 2 or 3? You still there, Ted?
We got swallowed by the door.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. Sorry about that. You know, actually, I was listening to what Shane had to say, and I concur with what he's saying about 2. I think that's a good place to get started and move forward from option 2.
Okay, we have 5 people that pick number 2 now.
Yeah, that kind of seems our consensus. Between, do we gain anything over what we have now? Between 2 and 3 as far as the angle clearance over 241.
Yep.
Are these the same or are these a little bit different?
They're a little bit different. So think of this, conical surface, imaginary surface that comes up from the end of the runway threshold. So in essence, the further you get away from the roadway, the more room you have above that roadway. So what they have listed here for all categories of this airport currently with the new current design standard, you're going to be at a 20-to-1 approach surface. So that's that imaginary line that pops up.
Yeah. kind of looks like, yeah, kind of looks like, airport committee has a consensus of 2. With, 3 is our next one.
Okay.
In that.
Ultimate
Two
build
and
out.
a half.
Okay. Let's skip over here then to,
I would ask you guys when you're doing your meeting minutes, so just make sure that you say if 2 is your preferred, your consensus one.
Yeah.
Alternate 3 would maybe be your final build out plan, just to get that in your notes somehow.
Hopefully Jackie got that.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping Century West can actually add something in the plan that, identifies maybe alternative number 3 as,
Okay.
your ultimate build out plan.
Okay, good, good. I like that.
yeah, I do too. Okay, this is,
So they're probably,
Oh, let me
all
go
of
grab
these are doable. I mean, there's no restriction or anything, it's just a matter of design now,
yes,
right, Stephanie?
All are possible.
I skipped my design, my airport design class in school.
And you can do a hybrid of these, looking at the different alternatives between alternative 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, just cursory to me is just the full build out. I mean, 1 and 2, again, can be maybe your immediate plans, and then you get into 3 and 4. What 3 and 4 offer, which would be maybe preferred for Sunnyside, are T-hanger locations. If
And
there
a
was,
dedicated helicopter.
yes, if there was an immediate need in our area, which I believe there is for aircraft looking for a home, this is maybe a opportunity.
That's how we're gonna grow, is by having those feet hangers.
and, the guys at the airport pretty much didn't like this one because they didn't like the category 2 airplanes parking here. And blocking off,
Fuel station.
yeah, coming in here,
Approach.
fueling, going back out again.
So what I have in my hand is an alternate 1A, which has all the elements of alternate 1, without having your larger ADG2 parking up in your existing hangar area, with the helipad, a helipad spot located just on the east side of the well.
Which is closer to the road. the
Correct.
egress road.
Yep.
Did this just come in later? Somebody looked.
Yeah, it did. This was a Century West doing a kind of an intermediate, I guess, alternate for you based on the last meeting.
One of the things that somebody mentioned on this one quite a bit is with the helicopter pad here, once, if the port hangar goes in anywhere there and then a taxiway is built and an access, then the access to the helicopter, especially medevac or anything, can come in here and go right here rather than,
Hi.
rather than going around everything. Hi, Chief.
Yep,
So,
would agree.
yeah, that was kind of one reason to put the helicopter pad. They're not that we do, well, helicopters are pretty good at landing on the big H.
Should be.
Um,
Well, let's recommend that one.
Alternate 1A. Now, do
I
you,
think I like that the best so far, but what's some of the disadvantages or advantages that we have?
now you can combine this concept though, with possibly T hangers, or, because this one doesn't currently show FBO facilities. That if that's a option as, a full build out.
This is like everything else in my life, not simple. I'm the only thing simple in my life.
So, yeah. And then the concept here was with fueling here and FBO there, then transit aircraft and others would.
But there again, these are not final. These can be
They can be tweaked.
tweaked and as we go. So we just need to kind of pick the best one that we like today.
Sean, are you still there? Can we get your thoughts on this
Shane?
or Shane?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just going through these pictures myself in here. I don't think I have, I'm looking at one of Samantha's emails with the attachments. I'm not looking at the same thing you guys are. I'm just looking at the snapshots of each one of those. So, from
He
what
does,
I'm
yeah. he's-
gathering, go ahead.
There's an email, Shane, at least I received it today, which was alternate 1A from David. It was on 11/17 with hand sketches on it showing heliport pad. Essentially, it's the same as alternative number 1, except on the east side of the well, the first hangar that's on the, I guess, northeastern smaller hangar is a helipad.
Oh, okay. No, that's a good idea. It's not popping up on my email for some reason.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at Sam's here, the forecast that she has. I think the numbering or the designation letters may be off on this. Because she sent me, I think there's alternate 1, which is our current, basically kind of our current configuration. And then she sent me, I think, 2, and then 3 and 3A. Is what
Yeah,
I
that'd
have.
be correct.
And I like,
Go
like
ahead.
alternate 2. 2
You
is
like
the one I
alternate 2?
like.
So just to clarify, on the one that you're looking at, immediately north of Bob Webb's hangar, it's showing ADG2 parking. Is that shown on your alternative 2?
Hold on, it shows 2 larger plane
Okay.
right out. There's ADG2 AC
2.
parking.
1 and 2.
So am I looking at the right?
Shane, 1 and 2 don't have any designated helicopter landing and parking. I don't know whether we need that right away, but it kind of might be nice to have them going to one spot.
At least
Absolutely.
designated
No, I
for
agree.
emergency.
Preferably as far away from the infield as we can get them, because they're sure making a mess out of the parking ramp.
Yeah, they certainly are. Yeah, I mean, that being considered, I mean, alternate 3, it's got the 1 helipad. I know the other one I think had 2, didn't it? The next alternate had 2. Is that 3A?
Yes.
Yes.
3A, Scott.
Yeah. Okay.
Alternative 3 has 1 and 3A has 2.
We need to.
Yeah, I mean, I like 3. I mean, I could get behind that for sure. I like all the T hangers and just the way it's laid out. I mean, it's just basically a little bit more of a design from 2. It's just a little bit more to it.
Maybe
Fueling
a
area is
amendment to, maybe an amendment to alternative 3 would be to add these infill hangers, possibly. So that's not
Right.
currently on this viewport for 3.
Yeah, they
Right.
didn't go down
Yep.
far enough. Sure.
Okay.
So just a thought.
Good thought. The more hangars and the more taxiways, the less weeds are gonna be out there.
What are people looking for out there that we could bring into this airport? Is it T hangars or is it the regular hangars?
T hangars are more affordable, so you might get people in. Basically the 40x60 they're a lot more expensive to build, and so consequently the rent's going to be a lot higher.
And just different clientele too, you know, some of your hobbyists or just folks getting into aviation are gonna have, you know, your smaller single piston aircraft.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, larger aircraft might be more for stationary corporate or, you know, someone who really loves aviation. Or even a business, manufacturing type.
Well, Shane likes 3. No, Shane liked,
Well, he liked this
that one.
first, but then he said that's agreeable too. Ted, which, on the, airport layout plan do you like for the ramp space and taxi?
I like 3, with the concept of the helipad being moved, as we talked about. And I think it lends itself, as I mentioned earlier, to if you get like where the pilotus comes in, the emergency transport planes come in, if they could be to the east of the well in that area, the larger planes in that area, I think it's going to be a lot more functional for those emergency services coming and going, and not impacting the general aviation. And they're really not at this point in time, but as it grows, I think it's important to keep them segregated so they have freedom of movement without being impacted by general aviation, especially we're a non-towered airport. The other thing that I was going to bring up, you asked about the hangars versus T hangars. The people that I've been contacted by are actually buying high-end planes. People are coming from the west side, and so they want it's really not about the price of the hangar so much as they just want to protect their investment because they know that if they keep it out in the sun, it's going to be. But it's a T hangar works very well for general aviation. There's nothing wrong with them, but I think you almost need a combination of both. I think we're going to start seeing more growth in the higher end general aviation and corporate airs.
And that's not necessarily to say that you couldn't do, looking at alternative 3, do 1 row of T hangers and then do some, you know, box hangers.
I don't know if you need 2 sets of T hangers.
Yeah, and then we have this spot
Those over there, yeah.
Yep, you got 2.
Those could be big hangers.
Yeah, it's about 12, 13.
And keep in mind, you know, when you're looking at these alternatives 1, 2, 3, and 4, especially when you get to 3 and 4, this is likely a 3 to 4 phase type construction project. You know, it's going to be built out in chunks, you know, especially as need arises.
So do we have a consensus on 3? What are you thinking, Larry?
That's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
3 with the modification of the helipad here on this side of the well.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gotta be close to the road. The chief just went out and did an estimate on how many medevacs we've been having. What is it a month now?
Like 12 or 13.
And it's not gonna get smaller, I don't think.
No.
Are you still doing Prosser, they land at Prosser now?
They landed.
Unless we have a really nice airport here, they'll wanna land here.
Yeah, part of this, Ken, was to get the helipad in here. So people were talking in our last meeting, and then the air vac, and then when we get an access road here, you know, the ambulance can just come in here like this instead of this.
Driving out on the runway.
Yeah, the runway and driving around there, and can kind of get them a little more secure spot there. 3, anybody not like 3? Ted, were you in on 3?
Yes, I'm definitely in on 3. And the other thing is not only with the medevacs, if you could keep those larger planes to the east, at some point in time, the way, who knows, Amazon and everything else going on, we might start seeing a lot more air freight coming in, and you might see that being supported by local airports. And so if you have that in your expansion plan, where you have room for that kind of growth, I think that's very strategic planning. So yes, 3 is my choice.
Okay.
3, and then add these, make sure these get in there.
Yeah. It's kind of my recommendation and
Okay.
in Martin's. And
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we have a consensus.
Do we need to officially take a vote on this, or do you just make a consensus?
Yes. Our recommendation to
Just making a
the city
recommendation
council,
for this, yeah.
and then Martin's got to sell
I don't think it'll be a tough sell.
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and if anybody else has any more comments on this?
I think 3 takes care of everything we need, provided we move the helicopter just for ease of access. I like the T hangars because it's a lower, but we can take the second area we got for T hangars and put regular hangars up. Plus we have regular hangars there. So I think it's the best of almost everything.
Yeah, and as the engineer, this stuff can all
Move
around.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be there. And, if you build a couple hangars and, the way of construction, unless you have a lineup of people that want a hangar, you're gonna
The
build,
one at a time.
you're gonna build one at a time.
Yeah.
Yes. Just everybody knows that apparently, it takes a while for the FAA to decide on your plan to build. What, 6 to 7 months or so now?
Nothing moves fast. Yeah, they're very regimented anymore, especially with their funding and the cycles. For airport the size of Sunnyside, Sunnyside receives $150,000 in entitlement a year, as long as we have 9 base planes. So you'll continue to receive that. So if we're thinking about some of these runway options, the basic option is going to be around $3 million plus or minus. So that's to increase the width and then to do the lighting system. So a $3 million project means that we're building our entitlements up for 4 years, which only gets us 750,000. Then we're asking FAA to fill that difference. So just, yeah, and same with this, this plan, if we had economic developers, the UAS hangar and that type of development, that could be a catalyst to spearhead this through. Otherwise, relying on, local entitlement funding, local funding, it's gonna move a little slow.
Because the port has a backup plan.
For that hangar?
Yeah.
We're gonna, if we couldn't find a tenant or the money starts shriveling because costs have gone up, we were thinking about T hangars too. I mean, it's possible. We have to spend it by the end of next year.
Okay, that's your
Is that ARPA money?
December.
Commerce.
Oh,
It was a direct appropriation from Senator Honeyford.
Yeah.
And then there's Department of Commerce money, CERB money, that can fund hangars with a loan portion. There's also a CARB program, CARB, offered through Washtenaw Aviation that can fund economic development, also with a loan component.
Yeah, we through Senator Honeyford, we talked about with the city with that, what was that, 14 million that the state put in or whatever, whether the city could ask for that, and like they did with the other, and turn it over to the port for development, and they said no, it has to stay
We'll
with
see with the city.
whoever owns the airport. The money has to stay with them. So just when that discussion comes up. Well, I think our job
We
is
know it now,
done.
2 and 3 with one little move.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those on the phone, Shane, Jackie, particularly from the city, any specific formatting that we need to follow to document? Are we good?
Nope. I don't think so.
Okay,
I
what-
don't know if Jackie wants to pipe. She's listening,
Yes, please,
but-
Jackie, help us out.
Thank you, Tyler, for sending me the text messages and everything, and being able to include me on this wonderful
You
drive
guys
down
need
through
me
the
for
gorge.
something?
We'll send you a selfie here next.
Stephanie, do you need me for something?
No, Jackie, just making sure that we're all on board. We have a quorum and there's consensus on the preferred option. So anything else you need on the city side to document?
I don't know what is Shane on? No?
Yeah, I'm here. I think we're good, Jackie. I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, we had a quorum, like Stephanie said, we got the consensus on both topics, both items. So I think at this point, we can go forward with Century West and have them incorporate that into the plan. And then, of course, this
Okay.
gets, this may be a question for Stephanie. I think at this point, it goes into the plan and then we take that to council once we're ready to adopt. I don't know,
Yeah.
or do we go?
Well,
Yeah.
it gets incorporated into your plan. And then your
Right.
draft chapter is sent to FAA for Agnes to
Right.
review. The FAA
Right.
has an opportunity to comment, and then any comments that come back, we'll need to address those, or we'll need to say, okay, FAA, this is what we want, but we understand you're not going to approve this element, but we still want to proceed. So there is that option.
Okay.
And once we have all the feedback back from FAA, the plan is consolidated. It goes to FAA and then also is adopted by City Council.
Okay.
So
No, I
Shane,
think-
did you get a motion or without objection to take it for council recommendation?
I think
We
we're a
just did-
little bit far from that at the moment, but the next action would be for Century West to incorporate the comments and submit to FAA.
Right.
We're probably a few months away from going to City Council for adoption.
Right. So I guess the question is, Jackie, because I think Jackie's question was, did somebody make a motion and a second? And was a vote actually taken, or are we allowed to just do a consensus of the quorum group and go forward with that? Might be the,
Well, we were kind of tasked with the, to come up with, this is Larry speaking, with a
Right.
consensus to forward to the, city council for their
Or for Shane.
approval. And, so we've come
Right.
with a consensus. We can do a vote on it if you'd like, but we have a consensus of the members present here.
That's okay. If you as the chair say without objection, this is our decision, our direction that we want to go with.
okay,
Yeah, I
sounds
think
good,
you're with
Jackie.
that. Thank you, Jackie.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think we're done with the meeting. No further comment. Meeting's closed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna
Thanks,
disconnect.
everybody. Thanks, Jackie.
Night, guys.
Thank you, Ted.
We've got a problem.